Now I'd like to move on to Dave Chapman from Longboard/Lundbeck to talk about, to talk about their work in DEEs and their phase 3 clinical trial.
Maybe raise that above my belly button. So my name is Dave Chapman. I need to touch base with Jackson and family. I don't know that we are related, but we at least the picture that I have of him, we both like the same neckwear. So anyway, I'm a neuropharmacologist with 20 years of industry experience in medical affairs, maybe another half decade or so, looking at preclinical research models of seizures and epilepsy. And today I'd like to focus on a group of overlapping conditions to STXBP1. They are called conglomerately developmental and epileptic encephalopathies, or DEEs. Over probably 1,000 different, largely monogenic gene mutations that have primary clinical consequences, seizures and developmental plateauing or regression. Furthermore, we'll briefly discuss the story that's still being written about Bexicaserin, which is an investigational therapy for the treatment of countable motor seizures associated with developmental and epileptic encephalopathy. Lundbeck in general is a global biopharmaceutical company dedicated to transforming lives through advancing brain health. One of the things that we really are proud of is it is one of the only long-standing pharmaceutical companies in the world that is focusing exclusively on brain diseases. Our legacy in neurological rare conditions started with one of the first treatments specifically for the treatment of seizures associated with Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, which is one flavor of developmental and epileptic encephalopathy. This medication is clobazam, trade name Onfi, and we really hope to build upon that legacy. So really quickly, what is a DEE? Developmental and epileptic encephalopathies are a constellation of conditions that are brought about by myriad conditions, whether genetic, structural, metabolic, or synaptopathic. The underlying phenomenon, which binds all of these patients with DEEs together, is difficult to control seizures and neurodevelopmental delay. The primary items that I wish to cover with this slide simply are that DEE is an umbrella term, meaning that, as stated previously, many different pathways converge to produce a similar clinical picture. Developmental and epileptic encephalopathy has its own diagnosis code, or ICD-10 code. I don't need to explain to this room the value of that, but in addition to being able to generate data, meaningful data sets in small populations of patients, one of the other things that potentially is of value is as treatments and services become more widely available to patients with DEE, including patients with STXBP1, this DEE-wide ICD-10 code may become more relevant, simply because increased access to specialists, research, support, and treatment, and then obviously hopefully it can tie you with communities as wonderful as this one. So I'm going to actually just move on. I'd like to introduce you to Bexicaserin, which is an investigational medication. It is not approved for use by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration or any other regulatory agency. The safety and efficacy of Bexicaserin at this point have not yet been established. So Bexicaserin acts on a specific subtype of serotonin receptor, the 5-HT2C receptor. We'll discuss this mechanism in greater detail on the next slide, but the placement of this receptor highlights a converging pathway by which the imbalance between excitatory and inhibitory neurotransmission in seizure activity can be restored to more normal levels. So typically, seizures are brought about by an imbalance between excitatory and inhibitory neurotransmission, and the strategies that you can use to try and reestablish balance are either to elevate the amount of inhibition or to decrease the amount of overexcitation that are often found in seizures. So 5-HT2C receptors are the kind of blue, we'll call them rectangles, and they're found both on the inhibitory interneurons, shown in the green neurons in this cartoon, as well as on excitatory neurons, shown in tan. The impact of bexicaserin on the inhibitory interneurons results in an increase in GABA, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter found in the brain. So the act of bexicaserin on 5-HT2C receptors on inhibitory neurons is it increases inhibition. Conversely, interaction of bexicaserin on excitatory neurons results in a decrease in excitation of these neurons. So you're decreasing overexcitation in a brain that is undergoing seizures. So this dual mode of action, both increasing inhibition and decreasing excitation, positions the effects of bexicaserin to act across a broad number of conditions where seizures, such as those found in developmental epileptic encephalopathy and STXBP1, are present. So let's briefly look at the data that we have generated to date. In this study, patients were divided into two groups, those on a stable regimen of anti-seizure medications, to which either placebo or bexicaserin was added. Furthermore, so following 75 days of treatment, all patients who were still in the trial and desired to do so were transitioned to an open label extension. So during the double-blind placebo-controlled portion of the study, and this is shown in I guess you can see here. So that shaded area, the first couple of columns in the graph, what we see is that the decrease in countable motor seizures was numerically greater in patients on bexicaserin versus those that were on placebo. And then the majority of this graph, or OLE month 1 through 12, OLE again stands for open label extension. So all patients were on bexicaserin at this point, and what we see is a both rapid and sustained reduction in countable motor seizures in all patients receiving bexicaserin. The reason this might be of interest is, again, Dr. Marsh had pointed out previously that many of the double-blind placebo-controlled randomized trials are only looking over a short finite window. And so with this longer 12-month data suggesting a sustained effect is potentially of great relevance to patients who are looking for durability of seizure control. Really quickly, we're going to talk briefly about side effects seen, and those that were seen in a greater percentage of patients who received bexicaserin versus those that were on placebo were mainly CNS or GI related. And so this is for the placebo-controlled portion of the trial. And then as we move into the open label extension, so over a year, if any of these side effects were encountered, they were documented. And the take home from this is that there were really no new safety signals seen in that open label extension. So what have we done in the last year? Bexicaserin is in 2 phase 3 clinical trials. Phase 3 is the final stage of clinical trial with the largest number of patients and the highest level of scientific rigor. The design of these studies are designed, and how these studies are designed greatly influences the patient profile that would have access to Bexicaserin if it were to receive marketing authorization. One of our phase 3 trials includes patients who have STXBP1 as a diagnosis. And furthermore, the novel trial design allows not only for new data in the STXBP1 community, but also paves the way for literally hundreds of other rare or ultra-rare developmental and epileptic encephalopathies that to date have no approved treatments or data for pathway of care. This is just my way of saying, and it's a little bit easier with this patient and community meeting, but I think we're the only table out there. But in the event there are multiple, please look for the starfish. We are there. The U.S. Patient Advocacy at Lundbeck.com is an email where we can address your questions. And then also, I just wanted to make sure that you all had my contact information if you want to chat about STXBP1, Bexicaserin, or anything in between. That is my contact information. It's Patient Advocacy Month, at least for me. And it's my favorite month of the year. It's super busy, but I attended my first STXBP1 Summit and Family meeting last year in Colorado, and for me anyway, it was all over. I normally don't get to come this far east, but I sharpened my elbows and kind of begged and pleaded and was able to thumb wrestle my colleagues to make sure that I could be here with you again for this year. And yeah, as families and caregivers of patients with rare disease, please know, I think you do, but I hope you acknowledge that you guys really have superpowers. I'm grateful for what I see in you and your capacity and your love. One of the superpowers that many of you have is hope, and we're grateful for the opportunity to work with the STXBP1 community. It's our desire to share in the superpower of hope. Thank you for your trust and enthusiasm, and with that, I'll take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Dave. You will be invited back. Does anyone have any questions? I know we're getting to the end of the day, but as Dave mentioned, there is a table right outside of the front door if you want to ask questions there. Thank you so much.